This is actually a question. Unless we have any more audience questions, Mikey, was there any? Okay. This is a question Matt had for me yesterday, our normal host, but he was asking about, because they're writing up bylaws for the Connell Church. And, I'll just ask it in a general way, but what are the different types of church government? And this is probably the last question, but and what type do you prefer and why?
Well, there are elder-run churches, and what that means is that there's a board of elders, and they're the ones who are in charge, and the pastor is an employee of the church and of the elder board. Okay. Then there are congregationally run churches, and that's where everybody in the church gets a vote. And so they get to vote on the pastor, they get to vote on the elders, they get to vote on on the building project, they get to vote on everything. There are there are churches that I've seen that are that don't have a pastor, whether he's an employee or not, and they just have a number of elders, and they take turns running the church, basically, doing the Bible studies and that kind of stuff. So, there are a number of different ones. There are pastor-led churches, and that's what we have here at Calvary. We have a pastor-led church.
Is it also called the Moses style, or is that something different?
Well, that's what Chuck calls it, the Moses style. But, you see it in the book of 1 Timothy. Timothy is written to Timothy, who was the head elder over the church at Ephesus. And in 1 Timothy chapter 3, when he's talking about putting guys into positions of overseers, you got to remember that the early church didn't have church buildings. And so the church at Ephesus was a whole group of people who had come into a relationship with Christ. And so basically what you had was a bunch of home fellowships that were being led by one man, Timothy. And so he would be the overseer of the church at Ephesus, is what you have there. And then you have other overseers of different small congregations, different house churches in the city of Ephesus, different Bible studies in the city of Ephesus. And so when Timothy was being told how to run the church at Ephesus, he was told how to deal, how to pick elders, or how to pick overseers in 1 Timothy chapter 3, and how to teach, how to pick deacons in the same chapter, how to treat people. And he obviously had the authority in the church at Ephesus. And so, that's kind of the picture of church government that I see. He wasn't somebody who was unaccountable. Right. There's in the passage in 1 Timothy, it talks about that elders, there should not be an accusation received against an elder unless it's before 2 or 3 witnesses. And, it talks about removal of those guys and that kind of thing. And so it's not, being an overseer is not a position that's unaccountable. And if it becomes a position that's unaccountable, it's unscriptural. And so we're all brothers and sisters, and we need to be doing that. I obviously prefer the pastor-led situation, and the reason has to do with the ability to get things done, basically. Well, and because I think it's in the Bible, but the ability to get things done. Anytime that you get 3 Christians together, you have 4 opinions, and so, if you've ever been on a church committee, you understand that many times the best thing to do in a situation never gets done because you can't get people to agree. And so committee-led stuff have downfalls. Yeah. Pastor-led stuff has downfalls, because if you get a guy into the position of head overseer, and he's an ungodly man or an unwise man, unwilling to listen to people, then you're going to have some real problems. And it's the same thing with elder-led boards, even elder boards that have where you have a head pastor. You get guys in the wrong position, and it causes all kinds of turmoil, because we're all fallen people. And The one I like least is congregational, and the reason for that isn't because I don't like having freedom. As far as the United States goes, I love the whole congregational type of idea, but it is a representative democracy, and so I really do not want our country run by democratic principle. Because that means everybody gets a vote, and you basically have the rule of the mob, and our country was designed not to do that. And so a lot of times churches, that's how their government is, and you have the rule of the mob. And one of the problems with that is if everybody in the congregation has a vote, you got people in congregations that aren't even saved who have a vote. And you have people who've been a Christian for a couple of weeks who have a vote. They don't know what they're voting for. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the Bible says. And so that's kind of a crazy position. But all of them have their downfalls, and basically what you need is godly leadership, people who love the Lord, and they love the Lord more than they love themselves, and they love the Lord more than they love the people who are around them. And so they're willing to do what the Lord wants and not just what they want or what the people around them want. And so, ultimately, none of this stuff works without integrity and without a walk with God. So,
okay.